What if the buildings we pass by every day hold secrets that have been passed down through the centuries? Cathedrals and palaces, bridges and squares, they could all be pages in a coded book written by architects of the past. Masonic codes, sacred geometry, hidden messages in stone. Welcome to the world of architectural mysteries, where every detail could be the key to unlocking humanity's greatest secrets. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on new investigations into the mysteries of history. What do you think? Did the architects of the past really embed secret codes in their creations? Or is this just a figment of the imagination of modern researchers? Share today, looking at cathedrals, palaces, bridges, and monuments. It is hard to believe that behind the splendor of the facades, proportions, and sculptures lies a secret code intended for only a select few. This tradition originated in antiquity, where each element of a building had not only a practical but also a sacred meaning. The story of the language of architecture is the story of man's eternal quest to connect the earthly with the heavenly, turning the city into a living text. In the Middle Ages, when literacy was rare, architecture became a tool for transmitting knowledge, implicit, coded, and often dangerous. The master builder, the architect of the cathedral, could put into the crown of the tower nothing less than an unspoken thought about the meaning of the universe. Hence, why have architects used the same laws for centuries? Is it just a tribute to fashion? Or is it a code that only the chosen few can read? This question is key to our journey. What mystery is hidden in the architectural language, and who is meant to discover it? But at the very beginning of our journey, it is important to understand that no major architectural masterpiece was created just because. They all carry meaning, often hidden from the outside eye. The mystery begins right here, in the introduction. Experts from different eras argue, where is the line between hidden sacred messages and the fantasies of researchers? Many modern scientists believe that architectural secrets can be explained by the logic of political eras. Conspiracy theorists insist that centuries-old buildings were and remain a coded manifesto of secret societies. So how can we distinguish fact from conspiracy? An entertaining investigation awaits us, where each new discovery raises even more questions. Don't be surprised if, while watching the video, you want to take a different look at familiar cityscapes. Perhaps you too will discover a message left centuries ago for those who know how to look more closely. Why are there strange patterns on some facades? And why do the chosen coats of arms have no relation to the customer? What role did the brotherhoods of Freemasons play in the emergence of mass codes? You will find out all this if you continue watching. The intrigue is just beginning. For thousands of years, architecture has been not only a means of protection from the elements or a demonstration of wealth, but also a powerful means of conveying ideas, codes, and symbols that only a few can understand. From early civilizations, from ancient Babylon to the great temples of Egypt, every building was imbued with secret meanings, rituals, and messages immortalized in stone, wood, or metal. Even then, architects understood that form, rhythm, location, and even size could all be part of an invisible system whose laws were revealed only to the chosen few. The technical side of building cathedrals and palaces was always linked to a sacred function, a desire to bring people closer to heaven, and at the same time to shield the uninitiated from the hidden truth of the structure. In the Middle Ages, this situation reached its peak. Architects were not only builders, but also guardians of secret knowledge. Monasteries, cathedrals, royal residences, wherever the center of spiritual or secular power was located, complex symbolic ornaments, mysterious numbers, and philosophical formulas transformed into architecture flourished. Any stone could be part of a complex cipher, which Masonic brotherhoods, alchemists, and scientists so eagerly sought. Between the lines of the facades, a straightforward and evasive history of the development of peoples, their beliefs, hidden hopes, and fears was written. In Paris, London, Moscow, Rome, and St. Petersburg, one can notice recurring motifs: rosettes, labyrinths, mirrored geometries, mysterious steles whose proportions strive for a certain mathematical ideal. Why do these elements reappear again and again, as if to indicate that cities are connected by the secret threads of a single design? Can their message be read today, or have most of the symbols remained in the past with the disappearance of those who were initiated into the art of secret stone? Scientists and conspiracy theorists argue. Some consider the hidden language of architecture a desperate attempt to pass on knowledge to future generations and the chosen ones, while others consider it merely a figment of imagination and superstition. In fact, the truth is that architecture has always said much more than meets the eye. Often it is architectural details that become the starting point for studying the origins of peoples, religious movements, and secret societies. Freemasonry, an ancient brotherhood of Freemasons, occupies a special place in these studies, claiming that the world is built according to laws accessible only to the most attentive researcher. It is difficult to penetrate the inner essence of architecture. One must combine knowledge of proportions, religious rituals, political struggles, and technological revolutions. In the paintings, stucco decorations, and tower structures, one can find codes that testify to the struggle for power, the search for truth, and the attempt to capture the eternal formula of the universe for centuries to come. It is no coincidence that many great structures were built according to designs that were changed many times. During the process, details were discussed that would enhance the mystique, conceal the message, and turn an ordinary building into a secret. Commentary on the era. Have you ever wondered why majestic cathedrals, palaces, and fortresses are similar to each other, regardless of culture, language, or time? Why are architectural forms such as the cross, circle, spiral, and triangle present in different civilizations independently of each other? This is not just a coincidence, but part of an encrypted system that will be analyzed in all subsequent chapters of our documentary investigation. A journey awaits you, where each fragment of a wall is like a page in a secret book, whispering the story of the world's mysteries. The deeper we dive, the more questions arise. Why does one cathedral have alchemical symbols on its stained glass windows, while another has figures that do not appear in official history? Who decided which elements to focus on and which to hide behind ordinary details? Are you ready to learn how architecture becomes a message for future generations? In this chapter, we will begin to lift the veil of mystery to find out what cathedrals and palaces hide. Just stone or a coded message for those who can read between the lines? It is almost impossible to solve the architectural puzzle without knowing the sacred principles according to which the world's greatest temples were built. Since ancient times, architects have sought to create buildings that were not just places for rituals, but were a perfect reflection of the divine plan on earth. At the heart of this quest is sacred geometry, where every line, angle, proportion, and even the location of a building obeyed predetermined laws. It is no coincidence that ancient temples were often built at the intersection of the area's ley lines, or their location was determined according to star charts. Such careful calculation in construction was incredibly important. Even the slightest violation of symmetry was considered dangerous in terms of the sacred power of the building. The widely used rule of the golden ratio, a ratio in which the proportions of a building are as close as possible to the ideal of nature, was known to craftsmen long before the formulas appeared in Renaissance architecture books. Cathedrals and palaces around the world repeat architectural patterns based on complex mathematical and occult calculations. Often, the main nave or central dome is strictly proportioned to basic numerical symbols. 3 as a symbol of the Trinity, 7 as a sign of perfection and completeness of the cycle, 12 as the number of apostles or months. This approach is found not only in Christian churches, but also in ancient Egyptian pyramids, Buddhist pagodas, Muslim mosques, and Masonic lodges. The universality of sacred geometry is convincing. Architecture is a universal language, and knowledge of its keys allows us to read the history of culture through the centuries. Stone labyrinths, square and round windows, zodiac symbols in cathedral decorations were never random. Each of these decisions referred to a plan prescribed by a higher will or secret philosophy. It was secret treatises with building plans were often carefully guarded, passed from hand to hand, and disappeared from public view after construction was completed. The casual observer saw only the beauty of the forms, but only a few understood the encrypted message presented in mosaics, patterns, and proportions. Chinese pagodas preserved hidden numbers. Egyptian colonnades were arranged according to the directions of the cardinal points, and ancient Greek theaters were built with acoustic resonance in mind, which was considered a divine manifestation of symmetry. Looking into these secrets, it becomes clear that sacred geometry not only gave buildings stability, but was also created to influence the minds and hearts of people, making them participants in a grand design. It is no coincidence that many legends say that correct buildings can heal, bring good luck, and protect from misfortune. For centuries, those who could decipher the hidden structure of architecture became advisors to kings, church hierarchs, and great reformers. How did simple numbers and shapes turn into code? Why did the builders of the past pass on this knowledge in the strictest confidence? And what have we lost by losing the original meaning of the ancient patterns? In the next chapter, we will look at how sacred geometry turned medieval cathedrals into the main carriers of secret knowledge, and what exactly makes them so recognizable throughout the world. Medieval cathedrals are instantly recognizable by their monumentality and mysterious aesthetics. High spires, stained glass windows, countless decorative details that draw the eye upward. However, behind the apparent monotony of these monuments lies a carefully constructed system of meanings and repetitions that define the language spoken by master builders for centuries. The Milan, Cologne, Notre Dame de Paris. All of them were originally planned not only for solemn services, but also to attract the initiated to the second meaning. The interior is subordinate to numbers, the number 3 symbolizing the Trinity, the Haku, 12 tribes of Israel, the 7 choirs of angels. All this constituted an unspoken code. The repetition of architectural elements, arches, ribs, towers, is far from accidental. This is the principle of transmitting secret knowledge from guild to guild, from century to century. The gates of the cathedral were often decorated with mysterious figures or monsters. Foxes, lions, and griffins oppose the forces of evil, while also serving as markers of entry for those who can read this language. Alchemical symbols, and sometimes even scenes not recognized by the official church, are hidden in the stained glass windows, which led the locals to suspect the architects of belonging to secret societies. Legends said that the builder of the cathedral could become a mediator between worlds. One legend claims that the architect of Notre Dame was able to repel an attack on the city with the help of a code, simply because he knew the right symbols. Similar myths are found throughout Europe. Why was so much attention paid to the universality of forms? Perhaps it was this system that made cathedrals part of a global conspiracy of builders, Freemasons or Freemasons, whose knowledge was deeply secret. Their mission was to preserve the eternal principles of harmony. But over the years, these meanings became less and less accessible even to the masters themselves. The more we study these recurring elements, the more obvious it becomes. The medieval cathedral is a code written for the few, defying the passage of time. The only question is, has the key to deciphering it been preserved? The secrets of architecture would not be possible without the architect, a person entrusted with the connection between worlds, preserved traditions, and secret rituals of knowledge transfer. Masters designed buildings so that they encoded meaning, from religious mysticism to current political slogans. They themselves often became the subject of rumors, accused of collaborating with secret societies or possessing magical knowledge. Codes were transmitted through drawings, legends, and even oral tradition. The most gifted masters chose only the most worthy students to pass on the secrets, preventing them from spreading beyond the closed circle. In an era when knowledge was more valuable than gold, architectural codes became a system of protection, a barrier against the encroachments of competitors, envious people, or representatives of other religions. In a number of palaces and cathedrals, capitals, signs on the masonry, and window details were hidden in a special way. In some cases, rare materials or unique techniques were used, making deciphering practically impossible. The question is, why did architects need to encrypt their messages so carefully? The key lies in the struggle for power and the preservation of spiritual continuity. Where official ideology did not allow the truth to be spoken openly, builders resorted to the language of symbols and hints. Sometimes such secret codes served as a test of loyalty for future members of the corporate community of Masons. Even today, many projects are still the subject of debate about their true purpose. Were these codes merely an aesthetic feature, Or did they have real sacred and political significance? Some historians assert that the widespread motifs of eyes or pyramids on Western facades can be explained by the influence of real Masonic organizations and their symbols. Others consider these interpretations to be myths, arising from a desire to see a mystery where there was none. It is not easy to figure out where the symbol ends and convention begins. That is why the profession of architect in the Middle Ages is shrouded in mystery, just like the figure of the alchemist, and its influence on history is often underestimated. In the following chapters, we will discuss how the rituals and teachings of Masonic lodges penetrated European architecture and forever changed the appearance of these buildings. Freemasonry, a mysterious brotherhood of Freemasons, has been associated for centuries with encrypted messages and a complex system of symbols reflected in the architecture of European cities. It is believed that the Freemasons adopted the ancient principles of sacred architecture and decided to transfer the language of hidden meanings to cities, churches, and palaces, in order to convey to the initiated a secret manifesto of their knowledge and worldview. Masonic lodges were not just secret organizations, but also a kind of closed academy where initiation into the true science took place. The art of building, mastering the secret meanings of shapes, numbers, and colors. At the heart of Masonic philosophy lay the principle of transmitting secret knowledge through symbols that were visible but incomprehensible to the uninitiated. Every true Mason knew that only those who had undergone initiation were able to read what lay behind the simple images of a compass, square, pentagram, or deck of cards carved on a facade, column, or mosaic. For example, the image of a palm raised forward at the entrance to the temple has long been a classic sign of admission to the secret. Spiral staircases, details of castle gates, stars on domes, these elements have repeatedly become the subject of close study by historians and cultural experts. Contemporaries believed that Masonic rituals were accompanied by secret processions, loud oaths, and night meetings in basements and windowless halls. In medieval and new cities, Masonic motifs appeared even where there seemed to be no place for secret signs. On the wings of birdhouses, fences, and cornice details. Each stone could become part of an invisible map that allowed the initiated to easily navigate the secrets and pitfalls of history. Masonic motifs occupy a special place in the cathedrals, palaces, and libraries of Northern and Western Europe. St. Stephen's Cathedral in Vienna, Westminster Abbey, and the Louvre in Paris. Compositions of ladders, intersecting spiral and square staircases, metaphors of path and light. All this was in the air at a time when Europe was undergoing the greatest transformations. This is also where one of the main motifs of architecture was born. The idea of upward movement, of transition to a state of initiation, whether in a tower or a spiral gallery. It is interesting to note that for Freemasons, the entire building was a manifesto and a code, not only for their contemporaries, but also for future generations. Sometimes architects encrypted their names, opinions about power, and events of the time using symbols and special architectural solutions. There are legends about secret initiation chambers hidden in the depths of cathedrals or castles, accessible only to members of the lodge. Why did Freemasons so consistently incorporate their ideas into the art of construction. One reason was their desire to leave behind their own truth, independent of the official history imposed by the church or the monarchy. By encrypting messages in capitals, reliefs, and stained glass windows, they created a kind of anti-authority, an independent channel for the transmission of knowledge. Even today, centuries later, architects, restorers, and historians are rediscovering mysterious signs on facades, the meaning of which has yet to be deciphered. Is this heritage alive in modern cities? Perhaps some of the Masonic codes have been lost, or perhaps someone still remembers their true meaning. The architecture of royal palaces is a special category of buildings where each element served as an expression of power, wealth, and sometimes a secret message for the initiated. For centuries, the ruling dynasties of Europe sought to decorate their residences with signs that drew the eye beyond the obvious. Here, scale meets convention, luxury meets conciseness, and behind the pompous facades often lies a complex interplay of symbols and codes. In every era, the architect of the royal court was not just an executor, but also a cryptographer, inventing a unique language for the select few. Sometimes the meaning of a particular motif was known only to the monarch and his closest circle of advisors. Examples include the mysterious labyrinths laid out in tiles in the halls of Versailles, the compositions of coats of arms woven together in Friedrichsburg, and the huge mirror galleries that serve as a reflection of secular and sacred power. The grand staircases were not only made for external effect, but also incorporated a numerical rhythm associated with dynastic cycles, culture, and secret knowledge. Some doors and corridors were intended only for the initiated. The path of a simple guest differed from that of a newborn heir. A notable example is the Winter Palace in St. Petersburg. In the paintings of its halls, one can find hints of ancient myths, hidden messages about the fate of Russia, and encrypted numbers in columns, stone flowers, and ornaments. According to one version, architect Rastrelli incorporated unique geometry into the palace's design, reflecting Masonic ideas and his personal philosophical views. Even the color of the walls was not chosen at random. According to some historians, it symbolized devotion to the secret teachings of the West. In Western European palaces, Buckingham, Hofburg, Prado, the interpretation of symbols leads to similar conclusions. Coats of arms, cornices, staircase curves, secret rooms, and even lanterns on the facades tell of the struggle for the throne, intrigues, dynastic alliances, and secret treaties. Here, as in Masonic lodges, every detail is like a letter in a mysterious book. Why has this heritage not been lost to this day? Palaces continue to be the subject of research, reconstruction, and speculation. They conceal not only the symbols of the era, but also philosophical forks in the road, pointing to the path that society took, like secret paths in a labyrinth. In the next chapter, we will see how Gothic became a universal language of allegories, and its code signs spread far beyond temples and palaces. The Gothic style is not only an architectural revolution, but also the highest point of synthesis of symbol and allegory in stone. High towers, pointed arches, unusual window and stained glass shapes create the impression of upward movement, a striving for higher meaning. every Gothic architecture became a universal code for transmitting knowledge and messages to the initiated, where Catholic dogma merged with alchemy, Kabbalah, and astronomy. Stained glass windows became a key element, through which a special light penetrated, a symbol of God, truth, and enlightenment. Entire theories and systems were hidden in the images on the glass. Star charts, scenes from apocryphal books, alchemical processes. Often, their carvings depict scenes featuring not only traditional angels, but also characters from ancient mythology, rare animals, and symbols whose meanings are still disputed by scholars. Many researchers speak of the deliberate duality of these figures. To ordinary parishioners, they appeared to be whimsical decorations, but to the knowledgeable, they could reveal secret teachings. Here, allegory becomes inseparable from fact. According to one version, the creators of the cathedrals deliberately included motifs of human nature, sin, temptation, and salvation, not in a straightforward manner, but through a complex system of hints and symbols. In Notre Dame in Paris, for example, symbols of the alchemical great work can be seen on one of the columns, and in Cologne Cathedral, there are signs reminiscent of ancient runes. Perhaps the most important thing about Gothic architecture is its desire to create a sense of mystery in the viewer, which they must unravel for themselves. That is why many details were so carefully hidden, repeated, and transformed during restorations, preserving the original mystery of the style. The intrigue only deepens. Were the creators of Gothic architecture aware of its entire secret legacy? Or did some of its meanings arise by chance? The answers to these questions will lead us to the Renaissance, when hidden numbers, proportions, and laws became an almost mystical part of architects' lives. The Renaissance was an era of revelations for architects, a search for harmony, ideal proportions, and deep philosophical meanings. During this period, projects began to be developed with unprecedented mathematical precision, where each number and each division of space had a double meaning. On the one hand, a practical function, and on the other, a philosophical or mystical code. Renaissance masters Brunelleschi, Palladio, Michelangelo wrote treatises on the significance of numbers and proportions for human destiny. Cathedrals, palaces, and libraries of that time were built according to the principle of the golden ratio, where the ratio of sides tended toward irrational harmony of the highest order. Astronomical diagrams, magic squares, and alchemical symbols became part of the decor and layout. Particular attention was paid to magical numbers, 3, 5, 8, 13, based on ancient ideas about the cosmos, the ideal human being, and the structure of the world. On the facades of palaces and temples, you can see sequences of windows, columns, and steps reflecting these numbers. The proportions of halls and staircases were carefully calculated to evoke a sense of grandeur and reverence in people. Renaissance interiors were distinguished by rich paintings, where every detail was a hint at a profound philosophical truth. The frescoes depicted ancient gods, scenes from the Holy Scriptures, allegories of love and justice. There were motifs of star charts, alchemical symbols, and even secret signs of their own philosophical teachers, whom the architects revered as conductors of truth. At that time, architecture began to be perceived as a book that should be read not only with the eyes but also with the mind. Philosophers claimed that the design of a building was the path of the initiated. Through gates, corridors, and arches, a person passes trials, finds truth, and is transformed. This allegory is elevated to an absolute in the Palazzo Vecchio, where each floor and hall is a step on the path to knowledge. Secret societies of the Renaissance, Rosicrucians, alchemists, Freemasons, were actively involved in architectural projects, encoding their ideas on facades, ceilings, and friezes. Venetian and Florentine buildings became veritable codes for the initiated. Even the color and shape of the windows concealed a message. Why did this tradition not disappear? The secret remains only for attentive researchers. Much remains to be unraveled, and the search may lead to the city that has become a symbol of Russian architectural mystery, St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg is a city that, in its relatively short history, has gained not only architectural fame, but also a reputation as the capital of Masonic and esoteric codes. Since its foundation by Peter the Great, it has been the subject of myths, mysteries, and carefully planned alchemical plots, embodied in granite, marble, gold, and bronze. Masters invited from all over Europe did not simply build the capital of the state, but designed a territory where every stone, street, and bridge holds secrets. Hidden lines connect Vasilievsky Island, the Admiralty, and the Winter Palace in the very center of the city. Magical axes that, according to one version, correspond to ancient sacred diagrams. The colonnade of St. Isaac's Cathedral, the sphinxes on the spit of Vasilievsky Island, the mysterious reliefs of Kazan Cathedral. All these are parts of a complex system of riddles that can only be read by those familiar with Masonic symbolism and the history of esoteric brotherhoods. Peter, the Ark, the Sea. Even why are sculptures in some neighborhoods arranged in a strange star pattern, while in others they repeat motifs from Egyptian temples? Who brought these motifs to the city? And why were they preserved even after numerous reconstructions? The mystery begins when you look closely at the details. Delve deeper. In the following chapters, we will examine the secret meanings of Russian classicism, on which the spiritual pride of the empire was built. Nothing in the history of Russian classicism is accidental. Neither the harmony of forms, nor the choice of materials, nor the striking details woven into the architecture of St. Petersburg, Moscow, grand estates, and cathedrals. Classicism in Russia is not only an external borrowed style, but also a carefully constructed system of meanings, sometimes secretly contradicting the official state ideology. During the era of Catherine II and Alexander I, when architects competed in skill, elements hinting at profound philosophy and sacred archetypes stubbornly appeared in building plans. The architects of Russian classicism worked not only for the elite, but also for future generations, as if hoping that someone would one day be able to decipher their ideas. The granite of Kazan Cathedral, the marble of St. Isaac's Cathedral, and the forms of the capital's palaces conceal geometric fonts, perfect squares, triangles, spheres, allusions to ancient civilizations, Masonic teachings, and occult mysteries. Every facade, every column is a mystery. In a special ritual of the Enlightenment, architecture became a language in which the elite conducted a secret dialogue about the future of the country, the role of the individual, power, and philosophical concepts. A thoughtful observer will notice that the layout of the estates and gardens largely repeats ancient Greek and Roman traditions, where the center of the composition is a temple or a gazebo for reflection. Many estates are decorated with strange coats of arms, unidentified animals, alchemical objects, even energy vortices, which in the scheme indicate a movement toward immortality or eternal glory. In large cathedrals, motifs of sunbeams penetrating through double windows, temple symbols reflected in mirrored halls, and secret rooms for reflection or meditation are often found. Often, the choice of number is associated not only with functional needs, but also with a secret code of the era, in which only the author or a small circle of his trusted students were initiated. Particular attention was paid to the sleeping space, the theory of acoustics, magic angles, and the orientation of windows. Even the arrangement of sculptures in courtyards is linked to ancient cosmological schemes. One figure was always placed to the east, another to the north, and a third strictly at the intersection of the building's axis of symmetry to create an allusion to the movement of the planets in stone. Why? Who determined the meaning of the symbols, and why do many of them still have no explanation? Historians argue, some consider it a whim of officials, others, encrypted philosophy, and still others, a manifestation of the struggle between the church, the authorities, and secret brotherhoods. Equally mysterious is why a number of buildings in Moscow and St. Petersburg are located according to the principle of magic triangles, or sun circles. Architects left many clues for future researchers: coded dates in reliefs, symbols of guardian gods on facades, unusual layouts of staircases and apartments, allusions to ancient mythology. These small halls sometimes feature egg-shaped domes, round tables, and mirrored panels arranged at a strictly defined angle. Thus, architecture became not only an aesthetic, but also a sacred space for self-improvement and spiritual transformation. Debates about the true nature of Russian classicism continue to this day. Some argue that Russian architects were merely imitators of the West, while others claim that they were perfectionists capable of composing ciphers for intellectual pleasure. Or perhaps the majestic palaces and cathedrals are the key to another history of the country, where mystery and meaning go hand in hand. In the following chapters, we will examine the secret codes hidden in the great cathedrals of France, and how much the book in stone really reveals the secrets of bygone eras. The great cathedrals of France are not just architectural monuments, but real books in stone, where every decoration and every detail symbolizes historical and occult meanings. One of the most striking examples is Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. It was conceived as a spatial encyclopedia of Christian teaching, alchemical ideas of the era, and even ancient borrowings that remain undeciphered to this day. According to legend, the architect Vianney de Chef performed magical rituals before the most important stages of construction, sought the approval of astrologers, and came into contact with the bearers of the secret traditions of the East and West. The interior and exterior decor of the cathedral is perceived as a whole, but behind this unity lies a huge layer of codes. The central rose window on the facade is a symbol not only of the Virgin Mary, but also of classical sun cults. The stone carvings feature scenes with alchemical retorts, symbols of transmutation, and animal figures found only in medieval bestiaries. Some details of the altars refer to astronomical knowledge. Their location is associated with the cycles of stars and planets, the constellations of Orion, and the Pleiades. No less mysterious is Chartres Cathedral with its famous floor labyrinth, mosaics inscribed in a circle, and proportions corresponding to Fibonacci numbers. Historians note numerous allusions to Pythagorean and Platonic philosophy in these structures. Even the choice of location is not accidental. Artifacts of Druidic and Celtic civilizations are often found under the cathedral, and some believe that the secret paths of all Europe are stitched together here. Gothic spires, zigzag fences, and gargoyle figures served not only a decorative purpose. According to one theory, gargoyles are an allegory of fears and obstacles that guard the secrets of the temple. The proportions of the windows and even the rhythm of the towers correspond to certain notes. In theory, the building sounds like organ polyphony or a secret hymn, only for the chosen ones. The paintings and stained glass windows feature multi-layered motifs, scenes from the Gospel, but also hints of Cathar and Gnostic teachings that swept across Europe and were banned by the Church. Here and there are images of zodiac circles, alchemical processes, and trees of knowledge. Ordinary parishioners did not notice these details, but the initiated recognized the keys and passed on their knowledge through generations. There is evidence that members of secret brotherhoods worked on the construction and restoration of cathedrals, sometimes incorporating their own codes, special stonework, marks on hidden plinths, variations in the number of steps on staircases. Some researchers find confirmation of the idea that cathedrals could have served as secret universities and meeting places for European Freemasons. Altar screens were decorated with specific patterns of grids and zigzags, possibly an allusion to the path of the initiated, overcoming obstacles on the way to truth. The question is, why do French cathedrals play such an important role in the history of world symbolism? Perhaps it is because they became a prayerful, magical geography, where the interests of secular and spiritual authorities, esotericists, alchemists, and philosophers were intertwined. The great cathedrals of France remain the greatest mystery for anyone who tries to decipher the language of ancient architecture and read the book carved in stone by the peoples of the Middle Ages. For centuries, London and Paris competed not only in the diplomatic and cultural arenas, but also in the field of secret architectural schools. This dualism was reflected in urban planning, facades, and the choice of compositions and subjects for reliefs. In London, the tradition of mixing prevails. Neo-Gothic stands side by side with neoclassical. Cathedrals stand next to symbolic bridges and towers, each of which carries a specific code. Tower Bridge is filled with allusions to secret societies, slit windows, star patterns in stone carvings, images of knights. Stonehenge, as the progenitor of coded architecture, remains a place of pilgrimage for mystics and esotericists to this day. Paris contrasts this with the transparency of its layout and the detail of its ornaments. The city plan is itself a code, where the streets diverge radially like sunbeams, and the largest squares are connected by broken diagonals, hinting at Masonic symbols. Some buildings seem to repeat the outlines of forgotten symbols or astrological constellations. Particularly noteworthy is the rivalry between cathedrals and palaces. Westminster Abbey and Notre Dame are not only architectural gems, but also expressive texts inscribed with parables and secret symbols. Astrological symbols are also found in the architecture of secular buildings. For example, in luxurious London clubs and mansions, where labyrinths are carved into the ceilings, and the emblems of secret societies are engraved on the facades. Historians find numerous coincidences in the compositions of reliefs, staircase designs, and even in the choice of certain types of stone for temples and palaces. The French claim primacy in the art of architectural mystery, while the English claim primacy in the practical application of this knowledge. Masonic lodges in both countries create parallel systems and rituals, striving to outdo each other in the complexity of their codes. What drives this rivalry? Is it just the desire for power, or is there something more? A thirst for truth, an attempt to express universal ideas through forms and symbols. Architects from both countries left complex ciphers for posterity. Star-shaped windows, spiral staircases, secret passages. These elements often become the subject of fierce competition between scholars. As a result, this struggle has given rise to an invisible battle of wits, not only for stone, but also for hidden meaning. Each new restoration reveals new details, allusions, and hints at ancient manuscripts. There are no winners in this confrontation. Paris and London continue to keep their secrets, passing them down from generation to generation. In the next chapter, we will look at how secret symbols evolved during the era of totalitarian regimes in the 20th century, and why, despite censorship, encrypted codes still remained in architecture. The 20th century radically changed architecture. Classical ornaments, hidden symbols, and mysticism were replaced by the ideals of rationalism, industrialization, and totalitarian power. It would seem that there was no place for secret codes in this era. But history proves the opposite. Even the most austere, unemotional buildings bear the mark of hidden signs, allusions, and hints, often veiled as state symbols or technological achievements. Architects of totalitarian regimes, the Soviet Union, Nazi Germany, Fascist Italy, continued the tradition of coded architecture, merely transforming its language to suit the new ideology. In Moscow, ensembles are appearing where the grandeur and scale of buildings are subordinated to strict symmetry and geometry. But behind this facade, there is often a deeper meaning. The Moscow Metro, for example, is not just a transport network, but also an underground city of symbols, where columns, mosaics, and bas-reliefs are arranged in a sequence reminiscent of ancient mystical labyrinths. The presence of numbers, key colors, stylized coats of arms, and even secret passages hints that architects continued to use the language of symbols, carefully adapting it to the requirements of the party. In Berlin and Rome during the era of totalitarianism, architecture became a visual means of propaganda. Majestic arches, massive facades, and accentuated window rhythms all served to monumentalize power. But here, too, researchers discover bookmarks. Codes in the numbers of columns, unusual proportions of halls, hidden motifs in decorative reliefs. Engineers deliberately incorporated universalism, signs of unity or fear into new campuses, forming a special psychology of space. Some believe that some of the buildings even corresponded to magical theories of paths and intersections that remained from the days of European Masonic schools. In the Soviet Union, architectural projects often included references to ancient Russian symbolism and allusions to myths, even while being varnished with ideology. In the metro, on the facades of institutes, and in the compositions of buildings, one can find familiar triangles, circles, and motifs of the rising sun, stylized in a proletarian theme, but retaining their esoteric nature. Even the monumental redevelopment of urban spaces often followed ancient principles: centralization, sacredness, the transfer of the individual from the crowd to the mass. The question is, why did the coding survive even under the harshest conditions of repression, censorship, and control? Perhaps architects could not abandon the magical, sacred function of their craft, and the space itself required symbolic protection, a navigation system, an implicit message for posterity. Some contemporary researchers are convinced that the halls of former ministries, secret laboratories, and even the views of bridges and avenues contain coded hints of hope, freedom, or even irony towards the authorities. No less characteristic are examples of the Stalinist empire style, where each building is not only a publisher of ideology, but also a kind of cipher. The shape of the towers, the rhythm of the arches, the number of steps lead to forgotten theories of harmony and order. It is interesting that against the backdrop of a general break with the traditions of the past, it was architects who preserved the memory of symbols, often risking their lives and freedom for the sake of higher meaning. Thus, the 20th century ushered in a new era of architectural codes, often difficult to read, confusing, but still effective. It remains to be seen where the line between conspiracy theory and science lies in this labyrinth, where every average building can whisper its secrets to the attentive observer. The topic of hidden meanings and codes in architecture is one of the most controversial in contemporary historical and cultural studies. On the one hand, there is a growing interest in mysteries, secrets, and conspiracy theories. Conspiracy interpretations appear everywhere, in popular books, TV shows, and internet forums. This conflict has turned architectural space into a unique battlefield between myth and reality, where each element is analyzed from different angles. Conspiracy theorists claim that virtually all large buildings in Europe and Russia carry encrypted messages. They see secret structures in the layout of squares, streets, and the choice of materials, believing that every window, ornament, or staircase is an independent cryptographic text. An example is the hypothesis about the Moscow rings, which are magical circles protecting the capital, or the Paris rays, which reflect ancient solar cults. They talk about how in Western Europe entire cities were designed in accordance with astrological tabloids and cosmic diagrams. They explain the repetition of motifs by functional requirements, fashion, and technological discoveries. Many codes turn out to be the result of coincidences, random decisions, or, conversely, a desire for harmony, introducing repetitive elements into the project. Where is the truth? It's a tough question. Undoubtedly, architectural heritage contains multi-layered information, some of which may have been deliberately hidden for ideological reasons, security, interdynastic signals, or even spiritual quests. However, most of the mysteries arose after the fact, when new generations sought justification for their guesses, connections, and fears in the old relief. Interestingly, the most heated debates concern places with a rich history of coups, wars, and revolutions. It is here that symbolism is often interpreted as a code of threat or salvation. But not all such findings confirm sensational hypotheses. Often they are simply technological marks, construction techniques, and not conspiracies of the world's elites. The archives contain contradictory data. For example, half of the supposed Masonic signs turn out to be just a workshop logo or a family mark. At the same time, the presence of codes, ritual motifs, and mysterious allusions is an integral feature of the art of construction. Whether it be a medieval cathedral or a Soviet palace of culture, architecture not only reflects history, but also shapes it, becoming a place of cultural battles between dogmas, new traditions, and the fantasies of descendants. So what is more important? Myth or reality? Who should we believe? Conspiracy theorists or historians? There is no universal answer to this question. The most valuable thing is accurate knowledge of the place, personality, era, and specifics of the symbol. When studying architectural codes, it is useful not only to decipher them, but also to critically compare facts, check sources, and seek a balance between mystery and logic, oneself and time. And finally, it is this debate that gives architects and researchers a powerful meaning. To preserve the views of both sides, turning cities into a living encyclopedia, where some pages are closed and some are open to the most attentive reader. As we conclude our journey through the world of architectural codes and secret messages, we are left with many unsolved mysteries. Despite centuries of research, many symbols hidden in the stone of cathedrals, palaces, and ancient buildings are still waiting to be interpreted. What do we know for sure, and what remains in the realm of speculation and conjecture? Which architectural mysteries can be solved in the future, and which will remain forever a mystery to humanity? One of the main unsolved mysteries is the system of connections between various architectural monuments of different eras and continents. Why do the Egyptian pyramids, Gothic cathedrals, Masonic lodges, and even Soviet buildings repeat the same geometric principles, numerical ratios, and symbolic motifs? Many researchers are inclined to believe that there was a single tradition of sacred architecture that was passed down through secret societies and builders' guilds. Another unsolved mystery concerns the technologies of ancient architects. How did the masters of the past achieve such precision in their calculations, create complex astronomical references, and incorporate acoustic effects into their buildings without modern equipment? Some believe that the ancients possessed lost knowledge about the properties of materials, energy flows, and the influence of shapes on the human psyche. This knowledge could have been encoded in the very structures of buildings, turning architecture into a three-dimensional encyclopedia. The role of numbers in architecture also remains a mystery. The golden ratio, Fibonacci numbers, sacred proportions. These are not just mathematical concepts. but keys to understanding the profound laws of harmony. But why were these numbers considered magical? What knowledge about the nature of reality was hidden behind the mathematical formulas embodied in stone? Modern science is only beginning to realize the influence of geometric shapes on the human consciousness. But ancient masters seem to have known much more about this. No less intriguing are the legends of hidden rooms, secret passages, and underground labyrinths beneath famous buildings. Archaeological excavations regularly uncover new voids, unknown chambers, and strange structures beneath the foundations of ancient buildings. What do these underground chambers hide? Perhaps this is where the keys to understanding architectural codes are kept. Libraries, drawings, ritual objects of secret societies, modern technologies, laser scanning, computer modeling, isotope analysis open up new opportunities for exploring architectural mysteries. Every year, we learn more about how ancient buildings were constructed, what materials were used, and how proportions were calculated. But the more we learn about the technical side, the more mysterious the spiritual and symbolic components of architecture become. Perhaps the main mystery is that architectural codes were never intended to be fully deciphered. They were created as an eternal enigma, a stimulus for reflection, a bridge between the material and spiritual worlds. Each generation finds its own meanings and revelations in ancient symbols, and this, perhaps, is the true magic of architecture. Not in specific answers, but in the eternal questions it poses to humanity. What lies ahead? New discoveries are inevitable. Artificial intelligence will help analyze huge amounts of data, find hidden patterns in the layout of buildings, decorative elements, and proportions. But will a machine be able to understand the soul of architecture, to feel its sacred meaning? Or will